Hi, everybody. Hub Arkush here for ChicagoFootball.com, along with our senior NFL reporter, Arthur Arkush. And folks, all the conversation about what to do about Jay Cutler, what to do about Brandon Marshall, not just me. I know a lot of folks who listen on the score think I'm the only guy in town who doesn't think Marshall should be back. That's not even close. You talk to most of the guys on the beat, I think would probably agree. But the real question is, what do Ryan Pace and John Fox think, both about Jay Cutler and Brandon Marshall? And Arthur, at this point, we don't really know yet.
We don't know yet. We should have a better idea at this time next week, I believe, when Pace and Fox finally meet the media again down at the scouting combine. So, frankly, your guess is as good as ours right now, but I will say that I think other options at the wide receiver position versus a lack of options at the quarterback position might be sort of telling with regard to these decisions.
Well, and two very different stories. First of all, mark this date on your calendar, March 12th. The third day of the 2015 league season. The Bears have until then to decide whether they save guaranteed money on Jay Cutler and whether they save cap money on Brandon Marshall. And there's a very important distinction there. Arthur, there's no money to be saved on Cutler going backwards. In other words, he's already been paid. There's no cap hit to take, a small cap hit to take if you release him, but they can save another $10 million in guaranteed money. Do they want to do that, eat all the pain, pay the guy $38 million for just one season?
Well, that's the huge question, and it's going to come down to not only the evaluation, the tape evaluation that Ryan Pace, John Fox, and others have done of Jay Cutler, but also the intel they've been able to gather with regard to the presence he is in the locker room and if he's the type of leader, if he's the type of winning quarterback that they believe they need. Remember, John Fox said there's different kinds of quarterbacks you can be successful ones, but the ones he's worried about are the ones that can win.
And the other thing to keep in mind is you might save some guaranteed dollars on Cutler, but who's going to play the position if he's not here? You're going to have to spend that elsewhere to bring in another quarterback. Jimmy Clausen's a free agent. He's obviously not the long-range answer. David Fales wasn't good enough to get on the field week 17, so there's nobody else if Cutler goes. Now, Brandon Marshall, a very different story. You actually save money if you cut Brandon Marshall. You're going to take a cap hit, but the net effect is you're going to save about $4 million. You have him out of the locker room. There are other bodies to play wide receiver. None are going to play it as well as Brandon Marshall. Nobody's suggesting he's not one of the best wideouts in the NFL, but there's a lot of other things that he brings that Pace and Fox may want out of that locker room.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think while there may not be another wide receiver who can fill his shoes at the present time, we've seen over the past several years, we're coming off the greatest draft class in wide receiver history. I believe this one looks loaded again. There's a lot of free agent options, and Brandon Marshall is going to be 31. He's a receiver whose game is based off physicality. When you start to see those injuries and maybe that physicality starts to lessen a little bit, that's when you have to be concerned.
And hear us very carefully, Bears fans. There's no groundswell of Bears players that want Brandon Marshall gone, but what will you get is when you talk to some of the veterans, they let their hair down a little bit off the record about what a huge distraction he was last year and what he can be. Those same veterans will tell you he was not that distraction in 2013. And so it's a mixed bag. But last year, Arthur, that was a real problem.
Yeah, I think it's kind of been the rap on Brandon Marshall throughout his career. When things are going well, you won't notice him as much. You'll just notice the big numbers and the production. When things start to deteriorate a little bit, that's when Brandon gets upset. That's what we saw last year, and it led to a real rift.
Bottom line is there's important decisions to be made. It seems unlikely that Jay Cutler will be gone. Nobody's too sure what's going to happen with Brandon Marshall yet. The telling opening comment from Ryan Pace the day he was hired, you want your best players to be your best leaders. Brandon Marshall is not that. Should we read too much into that? Probably not. By March 12th, we're going to have the answer. For all the best coverage of the Chicago Bears and the NFL, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, stay right where you're at ChicagoFootball.com.